Hello everyone, we're here at Beaver Stadium where Penn State just defeated Kent State 56-0. It was a record-setting day for the Nittany Lions. I'm Joel Haas, intern with the Post-Gazette, here with Lyle Alenstein of the Daily Collegian to break it all down. Lyle, I'll let you get started. What were your initial thoughts from the game?
I mean, Penn State's slow start, obviously, they only put up 7 in the first quarter, which was a little concerning considering that Tennessee put up, I believe, 35?
Something like that.
Like that when they played Penn State last week. So obviously, a slow start for the Nittany Lions, but obviously they poured it on. Drew Allar went over 300 yards for the second time in his career here at Penn State. Obviously, historical day in the record books. Penn State broke the record for the most amount of yardage for a single game, hitting 717, and then most first down conversions with 40. Obviously, overall great. Starters were pulled at some point early in the third quarter. Big games from Tyler Warren. Obviously, the wide receivers. You saw everybody get involved. Omari Evans, big day, over 100 yards. Julian Fleming, a couple of receptions. Liam Clifford with his first couple of receptions of the year, going for 64 yards and a touchdown. And then Harrison Wallace, a few receptions himself. This was the first game other than against West Virginia where multiple Penn State receivers tallied multiple receptions, and you had 4 of them today.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like everyone kind of got involved today. Everyone had a touchdown. I know Lyle got a couple. I had one there in the fourth quarter, so everyone got on the box score for Penn State today. Like Lyle mentioned, a record-setting day offensively. Drew Allar, very efficient through the air. I think 17 for 21 for 309 yards, which comes just short of his personal best of 325, which he set against West Virginia last season in his first career start, an impressive showing. So you have to go all the way back to his first career start to find the last time he was this efficient through the air. He obviously would have broken his own record had he stayed into the game, but they took him out midway through the third quarter to bring in Beau Pribula. We didn't see Ethan Grunkemeyer, which I was a little bit surprised by. I mean, do you feel like they should have brought him in there for that last drive?
Not even the last drive. You could have argued beginning of the fourth if you wanted to.
The last few drives, yeah.
Yeah, I would have liked to see him because obviously you saw a bunch of freshmen make their Penn State debuts today. Obviously didn't make his debut though, but Luke Reynolds obviously just burned his red shirt and just made an incredible leaping catch late in the game. Obviously, Drew Allar was incredibly impressed by that. He talked about post-game. But then you saw a bunch of guys make their debuts. Tyser Denmark had his first Penn State reception. Obviously, Anthony Specca came in at linebacker, made a couple of tackles. And then you had guys like Ty Blanning on the defensive line, Kenny Woosley. Another young guy didn't make his debut, though, was Dejon Lane. Obviously, with KJ Winston going down with a long-term injury, Franklin talked about how he had to step up, and we said this was a great opportunity for him. Saw the field a bunch, played a bunch of good snaps, and I thought he played a pivotal role today.
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of guys get involved, whether it was, freshmen playing for the first time ever or just kind of younger guys getting more experience. Even some of the veterans on the team who haven't been performing well had bigger games today. I look at a guy like Julian Fleming, who had 1 catch for 3 yards for the first couple of games, comes in today with a few catches for 50 yards. And then Liam Clifford, same deal. He didn't record a reception through the first 2 games, but gets 3 of them today. So he gets on the board, and we've seen kind of some good things from him at practice. We heard some good things about him from Franklin and some of the other players about what he's been able to do this offseason and during camp. We hadn't been able to see it in a game until today. So obviously Penn State kind of proving something today, proving that they have a lot of weapons out there on the field. Omari Evans is another guy who obviously Penn State fans are familiar with, and he has had some big catches in the previous games this year, but he had another good day surpassing 100 yards, which is his personal record for yards in a game. So a big game, all across the board offensively. And then kind of turning to the defense, we got to see Abdul record his first sack from the defensive end position. Denied Dennis Sutton, the other defensive end, also gets his first sack of the season. So both of them getting on the board today. Dennis Sutton recorded a fumble on the first drive, knocked it out of the quarterback's hands. The quarterback goes down on the play, and then by the end of the game, Kent State's on their third string. So a little bit of a rough day for Kent State. Not only do you lose, but you add injury to insult, I guess, losing 2 of your quarterbacks. But Lyle, defensively, who stood out to you?
Obviously, just a couple of defensive ends you just mentioned, but I want to add another one was Max Granville. Obviously, just joined Penn State late in the summer, considering he's supposed to be a senior in high school. His high school is down in Fort Worth, Texas today. Actually had their homecoming. They won by a lot of points, but I thought he was super impressive. He had a strip sack that ended up getting called back because of a penalty, but I think he's the defensive end of the future. Really impressed by him. But other than that, on the defensive side of the ball, you saw Dakari Nelson obviously just transitioned from safety to linebacker, play a healthy amount of snaps today. Obviously, Dom DeLuca went down in the first quarter, had his helmet off on the sideline, did not return to action. But other than that, Tamir Robinson made his return to action after going down with injury in the West Virginia game to start off the year. Obviously, he's the team's special teams player of the week. I thought it was a good opportunity to get him some burn. Just overall impressive effort. Obviously, this is Tom Allen's first shutout. Penn State, James Franklin talked about posting he's in the box. So that was definitely an adjustment that, I guess, worked out for them.
Yeah, I do want to go back and talk about the running game real quick. Nick Singleton and Katron Allen both had 8 carries today. I think for 80 and 50 yards, something like that respectively. So not a super effective day, but they were also pretty limited. Came out of the game pretty quickly, and then we obviously got to see Cam Wallace and Quentin Martin get some run today. Quentin Martin for the first time. Wallace actually went down with an injury there late in the game. He was helped off the field, but didn't put any pressure on one of his legs, so we're assuming some kind of lower body injury there. Obviously, not great to speculate on injuries. We don't want to put out anything that's not true, but we do know that he left the game in the fourth quarter, didn't return, which allows Quentin Martin to get in. So if you're Penn State, obviously that's a little bit of a hit to your depth, but that's why you pull the starters early in the game. You don't want them to be the ones getting injured if anyone does go down. So you still have Singleton and Allen healthy, obviously moving forward. But again, I thought solid game all around. Again, maybe the running game could have been a little bit better compared to the passing game. We saw, I think, a little bit more explosion out of the receivers today, especially Tyler Warren at tight end with his receiving and passing touchdown on what James Franklin called.
Well.
Right, yeah. Well, on what Franklin called the ugliest touchdown pass or ugliest touchdown throw he's ever seen, to which Tyler Warren responded 6 points to 6 points, and he's correct. Actually ended up with 12 of them if you include the receiving touchdown. So a big day from him as well, which is his second consecutive, big performance after the 150 yards against Bowling Green in week 2. I guess we can turn to special teams now. Haven't really mentioned them, but it wasn't really an issue today for Penn State.
I mean, Caden Saunders, you saw him get a couple more actual punt returns instead of just fielding a fair catch. He fumbled again, did that in the lone one he returned against Bowling Green. But then he actually broke one off for 23 yards. He did not see the field as a wide receiver today. Franklin talked about he's still dealing with a lingering injury, but I thought he's been increasing his role during our viewing sessions during practice, and I think he should find his way into the mix in the offense shortly. Other than that, I mean, Riley Thompson punted the ball a few times. Good punts. Riley. Sanders Sahadak didn't need to kick 50 field goals today, but he made all his extra points. Ryan Barker, actually the redshirt freshman, got to kick an extra point, but overall team performance today on special teams.
Yeah, an overall pretty good performance, I would say, across the board for Penn State. Obviously, great performance by the offense, and I would say pretty solid performance on defense and special teams as well. I think the only nit that James Franklin picked during the post-game presser was penalties. Penn State had 7 of them today. It's an issue that he addressed after the Bowling Green game, and it looked like they still didn't get it cleaned up. Franklin was a little mad that he got asked about it because it kind of ruined his mood, he said. But it is something that the team will need to address. He said he's going to hold the players and the coaches accountable for that moving forward. But at the end of the day, Penn State gets a dominant win over Kent State to move to 3-0 on the season heading into Big Ten play. They'll host Illinois here next week, a ranked Illinois team that just took down a ranked Nebraska team. So that game suddenly looks a lot bigger than it might have before. But that's all we have for today, so thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.